mentioned that there's a story behind the building of the Christmas tree.
Well, not necessarily a store. Well, there's a little bit of history behind it. So I started at RPS in 1993, and I started in October, and that was at the beginning when we'd actually go get the branches for the Christmas tree, as well as the greens that string across Main Street. Those used to be real greens instead of artificial. So we actually used to go up into the mountains up in Vermejo land. We'd get permission to go up there, and we'd actually cut trees down, and everything that crossed Main Street and the tree itself was real branches. So we'd go up for about a month, getting trees and branches, the little tiny branches as well as the big branches. And my first year, like I said, was in 1993. We it used to be right in front of the El Raton. So we'd actually put a power pole in the ground right there, and we would build it branch by branch. Every branch we built for the new Christmas tree every year. Um, that was really neat. I'm sure glad I got to do that because that was the last year we actually did it on Main Street. And then back in the year after that was 94, we moved it to the park where the tree is now. A little bit further south, we had a hole in the ground with concrete around it. We would do the same thing. We'd actually put a pole in the ground, and we'd staple it branch by branch, and it would take about 3 4 days. Um, we also used to go, like I said, the branches. We'd get little twigs about this big and break them off, and we'd fill up a full pickup truck load of them. Actually smashed down too. And then when we'd bring it back to the warehouse, we had rope with lights, and then we'd grab the greens and actually wrap them with twine. And that was it was a lot of fun, but it was a lot of work. But we would actually decorate the town. It'd take us about 2 months to get the ground to get all the greens, as well as hang everything in town. So now the guys only take about a week to week and a half to it. Everything's artificial now, which is good and bad because we don't have to go and cut trees down for the greens. The Christmas tree, I think, used to take about 10 trees just to build one Christmas tree. um, what's also pretty interesting is we'd have a bucket truck up towards the top, and we'd start working small to big at the bottom. Well, when we started getting down about halfway, two guys would actually have to climb the pole off of hooks, belt off, and do the stapling while the guys would bring the branches in. And they would always have a couple of guys on the ground too. They were kind of lining us in, bring it in, bring the branch out, turn it a little bit. And the tree would actually come out too perfect where, you can see the pole around it. So that was pretty interesting. I always enjoyed that. One neat little story is when we were building the Christmas tree downtown, we'd work for about 3 4 hours, and it seems like it was always cold when we built the Christmas tree. Um, Eva from Eva's Bakery, right across from the El Raton at the time, she would actually have us come in and give us coffee and pizza. That was always neat. I always enjoyed that. And then back to work. Um, Another really neat thing, I don't think you ever knew about this, but the star at the top of the Christmas tree, the guys on the line crew actually built it. And our Aunt Sandy, she actually sewed the cloth around it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so there's a neat little bit of history on that.
So you mentioned that the tree used to be real, but it's now artificial. When did it?
Well, no, the tree in the park now is real, but it's a growing tree. It's a live tree.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what I've been meaning to ask you on the topic of Christmas, what's your favorite Christmas memory, either from childhood or as an adult?
Probably a childhood growing up on Lincoln Street. Um, Probably when my last day of school, my brother and I, walking home, um, and then coming home to a nice warm fire, and then mom having all the house decorated already. When we left for school, it was just a plain old house. Get home and the house is all decorated and have a beautiful fire. That and just having a nice fire going at night, and outside of our living room window was a street light, and just staring out at the street light and watching the snow while we're all nice and warm by the fire inside. I always love that.
Is that your favorite Christmas tradition?
Yes, yes, I would say so. My we didn't really have traditions. You know, if it snowed, we would go for a ride and then go look at the Christmas lights. We would do that anyway, but it's just more special if there was snow on the ground, or especially if it was snowing at the time.
So, like, I always hear mom talking about how your family always does Christmas traditions on Christmas Eve instead of Christmas Day. Did anything change once you got married and you kind of combined traditions?
No, I try to keep it Christmas Eve for our personal family, but if anybody outside the family wanted, if their tradition was Christmas Day, we'd do both. So, you know, if you and Zach, um, like when Grandma Jeannie was alive, you'd have Christmas Eve, and then that was just our tight little knit family. And then Christmas Day, you guys kind of got two Christmases.
What what's your favorite thing to eat on Christmas?
Um, I don't know about eating. Well, I guess sweets, like the Christmas cookies, and eggnog. That's my favorite.
And so back at home, we would always watch movies while we opened presents. I gotta ask, what's your favorite Christmas movie?
Favorite Christmas movie? I would say A Christmas Story.
How come? Any specific reason?
I guess because it's an older movie that it's more towards my generation, and one thing I really like about that is when they're going like window shopping, and you see all the old um, toys and stuff in the windows. I always thought that was really neat. Raton used to have a, I can't remember the gentleman's name, but up on Tanaha Avenue, he used to have a little Christmas town in his front yard. And I forgot about that. That was a really neat tradition. We'd always go down and look at that.
Was that the train cars down here on First Street?
Yes, yes. He used to have it in his front yard, and it just grew to be that big. But yeah, I always thought that was really neat.
So what are some traditions or not necessarily traditions, but things going on here at the Festival of Lights that or from your childhood that you miss or you don't see as often?
Mm. Well, the Christmas town, they don't have that anymore, I guess. But I do miss that. Um, I just like seeing all the people out and about, especially on a really cold night. Still seeing people come out and get out of the house and just see so many different people. I really like that.
Let's see. Kind of turning the topic from Christmas a little bit. What was your childhood like here in Raton?
It was amazing. Mom and dad were a little bit strict, but you know, we could still go out and do things. Um, Times were a lot simpler back then to where, you know, if it wasn't too cold, we could be out way past dark, and mom and dad never had to worry about us. Um, I really miss that. Um, that's all I could think of.
Do you have a favorite memory as a kid?
Playing outside until it's time to go to bed. You know, with all the friends in the neighborhood. My neighborhood had a lot of children my age, so we were always outside doing something. So I really miss that.
Yeah, see, seems like a lot of people today, especially kids, they don't really hang out with each other very much.
No, no. And see, back in the day when I was growing up, we were always outside. You know, very few kids were not able to come outside. It was because they were doing chores, and then after their chores were done, then they were outside playing. But all the children in the neighborhood were always out playing.
And you said you grew up on Lincoln?
Yes, Lincoln Avenue.
Mm. So, isn't there a mountain around there you used to climb?
Yes, just north of us, right up the street. And we were, if we weren't playing in the neighborhood, we were up in the mountains building forts and stuff.
Wa- Was it? So it was the kids in the neighborhood, you, your brother.
No, see, mostly just a couple of us. I mean, a friend named Chris and my brother, yes, but not a bunch of kids who would like to play in the mountain.
So after you grew up and you left Raton, what brought you back?
Actually, when I moved back, I just moved back to send applications to Denver, Pueblo, Colorado Springs, and Albuquerque. I didn't have any responses to my application or my resume, so I found a job here in Raton working for Chimino Brothers Ford, and just ended up staying.
And the career path that you're on, is that what you always wanted to do when you were little?
No, I actually went to school for electrical technology, almost like electrical engineering, but it's a step below. Um, and then fell in love with drafting after I took a class, computer aided drafting. And I actually applied for that in Colorado and New Mexico. But like I said, I didn't have any bites on it. So I went to work at Chimino Brothers Ford, which had nothing to do with either one of those. Um, and then they had an opening at our Raton Public Service. So I just applied. And the funny thing is about that, when I moved back to Raton, my dad said, whatever you do, do not work for RPS or do not work for the mine. So I ended up working for RPS.
Why did RPS, why did that job title kind of stick out to you?
Um, because they had some drafting in there, as far as the mapping of all the power lines and everything. I did a little bit of that, but my main title was the lineman. But that gave me a little opportunity to do some drafting as well.
How long were you on the line crew?
I was on the line crew for 17 years.
And then you went to your current job?
I went from um, a lineman to becoming a superintendent, which is in charge of the line crew and the power plant. And then from then I believe that was like 6, 7 years, and then became general manager.